What's up, YouTube? It's Edwin, the comic Jabroni, coming at you. Today, I'm bringing episode 2 of Comic Reviews with the comic Jabroni. Last week was episode 1, and I brought you and I talked about Batman, the Gates of Gotham from 2011. This week, brand new episode. If you stayed around, if you stuck around for the end of that episode, I showed you what we were going to be talking about, and that is Nightwing, the 1995 miniseries. This was Nightwing's first solo series. Before that, Nightwing was a part of the Teen Titans. And this was, like I said, done in 1995, September of 1995, written by Dennis O'Neil, who is known for his work on Batman, his work on Green Lantern, Green Arrow, and some Spider-Man. He has worked Marvel and DC. And the art is done by Greg Land, who is known for some Fantastic Four and some X-Men. He's still out there drawing, and he's got some beautiful covers out now. Like I said, this is a 4-issue miniseries, so this is issue number 1. Here is Nightwing, issue number 2. My favorite out of the 4, this is Nightwing issue number 3. Nightwing kind of tied up there. And here is Nightwing issue number 4. So, what can I say about this Nightwing series? I had not read it up until maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. It got put onto the DC Universe app. So I went ahead and read it on there. I'd had these issues for a while. I was able to find them at a half-price books for a really great deal. But they put it on the DC Universe app, and I decided to go ahead and read it. And I got to say, I really dug it. I'm a fan of Nightwing. Now, Dick Grayson and Nightwing aren't one of my favorite Robins or Bat family members. But I have to say that this series, kicks things off, because after this 4-issue series, they jump right into his, solo series, ongoing solo series. As far as, I'm going to give you what I feel on a ranking base of 1 to 5, story, artwork, and spec value. Story for me, I got to say 3 out of 5. There's some good twists and turns in there. Some things you don't really see coming, all the way up until like the 3rd and 4th issue. You're like, wow, I really didn't see that coming. You think it's Nightwing, it's just going to be him going into somewhere to beat up some criminals, and he comes away, happy-go-lucky and everything's great, but it doesn't really go like that. Artwork, I had originally written down a 2.5 out of 5 on the artwork, but after looking at it again, getting ready for this video, I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5. And I say that because the 90s to me were just really bad about artwork. I'm not a fan of 90s artwork, because if you look at and throughout this video, I'm going to be posting up some pictures of interior art. I noticed in last video, I didn't do any interior art, so I wanted to show you kind of what's going on inside, not giving away too much, no true spoilers. But if you look at 90s art and a lot of 90s comics, all the characters are beefed up, like super beefed up. And for some reason, everybody seemed to have long hair. Like, why the heck did everybody go from the 80s with like the shortcut hairstyle to like just the long? Superman had long hair. Even Peter Parker had long hair. In this issue, Dick Grayson's got the long hair. I think even Hulk had some type of longer-ish hair. Like, what the heck is up with that? And everybody's beefed up. Didn't even matter. If you could have been the biggest nerd, like Fantastic Four, right? Like Mr. Fantastic. Even him, if you look at those Fantastic Four issues from the 90s, the dude is jacked, man. Like, he is on some type of steroid program. I don't understand. But when I went through this again and I really looked at it, man, Greg Land did an awesome job with this artwork. There's just so many great fight scenes, and then scenes where Nightwing is doing some detective work and he has to be in the shadows, and you can really tell the difference, man, where he was just doing some awesome artwork in there. So I'll give it a 3.5 out of 5. And spec value, a 1.5 out of 5. There's not too much spec in this. Issue number 1 is really issue 1 and 2, kind of the spec ones, right? Because number 1 is, this is his first solo series, his #1 first solo series. And you do have first appearances of 2 villain characters, which are Prince Balsic, which is the Crown Prince of Kravia, and an assassin that goes by the name of Good Old Bernie. So you get some first appearances of villains. This is Nightwing's first series. And #2, I gotta say, the spec in that one is you get to see his new costume, right? So if you look at #1 and #2 next to each other, you see the old costume, right? I'm making sure. Yeah, you see this is the old costume. And in #2, he gets his new costume. So at least you see the costume that we really know for quite a while after this. Like even 15 or 16 years after this, he's wearing that same black costume with the blue like Nightwing stripe. Even in the cartoons, he was wearing that same costume. As far as the story goes, let's get into it. First issue, Nightwing fighting some bad guys, and he finally decides, you know what, this is it. I'm done. I want to retire. Batman shows up, and he takes his costume and he gives it to Batman. He says, "Hey man, I'm done. I understand why you didn't talk to me after I'd left from our dynamic duo, but they squashed the beef." And he tells him, "I'm retired." Until the very end of that issue, where Alfred is giving Dick Grayson some paperwork from after he had been adopted by Batman, by Bruce Wayne. And in that paperwork, he sees a letter from one of the clowns of the Flying Graysons, circus act, where it says, "If you talk about what you just saw, I'm going to come back and kill you." So now you thought that Tony Zuko, who was the original killer of Grayson's parents, you thought it was just him acting alone or doing it for one of the mob bosses. But Dick Grayson finds out that there's more to it. And this puts him on a path to the Crown Prince of Kravia. Kravia is a make-believe country in DC universe. And the Crown Prince has something to do with it. So he goes to Kravia to find out more about what's going on. I don't want to give too many spoilers. I kind of want to give you enough to pique your interest. So if you're out there at your local comic shop and you find it, you'll want to pick it up. You watch this video and you think, I want to read more. I want to know. So there are definite twists and turns. Who you think is the prince, the Crown Prince of Kravia, isn't who he really is supposed to be. Nightwing finds out more about that throughout the issue. You find out why Dick Grayson's parents were actually killed and what really happened that night. You find that out throughout these issues. Like I said, we always thought it was Tony Zuko, but it ended up something else is going on. So I would definitely recommend Nightwing, the 4-issue miniseries. I believe that this is a great 4-issue miniseries to have in your personal collection. The covers are, I think, in my opinion, there are some awesome covers. I absolutely love that #3. Always have, always will. That cover has a lot to do with what's going on inside of the book. As far as pricing goes on this, I looked up on eBay. Nightwing #1 is going to cost you anywhere between $10 to maybe $20. You can find them for cheaper. Obviously, I went to Half Price Books and found them for $1.50. But if you don't want to try to get lucky and just go on eBay, $10 to $20. Issues 2, 3, and 4, they can run you anywhere from $2 all the way up to $8. Really depends on the condition. If you don't care about the condition of the book and you just want to read the story, that's a great way. Just go out there and find you some $2 issues. They do have this miniseries in a trade paperback as well. Some trivia that I wanted to give you for this book. In issue #1, Dick Grayson mentions that his parents were murdered on June 27th. Doesn't give a year, just says June 27th. And the Crown Prince of Kravia, Prince Balsic, talks about that it has been 15 years. So when this story happens, it had been 15 years since the death of Grayson's parents. So kind of put things in a timeline there. Obviously, Dick Grayson came about in the 1940s, but the way comic times work, 15 years is 80 years, I guess, So anyways, guys, that's Nightwing #1. I absolutely dug it. I hope you can find it out there, and I hope you liked it. You like it as well. Let me know in the comments. Is this a series that you're interested in, or is it a series that you have in your personal collection? You've read it before. As always, stay tuned at the very end. I'm going to preview next week's show, Comic Reviews with the Comic Jabroni. So until next time, guys, take it easy. Peace.
Demons, ninjas, and hostile takeovers. What more can you expect from a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comic? The first installment of this new miniseries reveals a history never told before about the original founder of the Foot. Join the Turtles as they get a history lesson that they will never forget. On the next episode of Comic Reviews with the Comic Jabroni.